I am the North Texas Area Director for the Trust for Public Land. Our office here is based in the Dallas-Fort Worth region of Texas, which we refer to as the North Texas region these days. I want to talk a little bit about how we're using this multi-benefit greening strategy to help really address some of the big challenges that Dallas is facing, specifically through a program we call Smart Growth for Dallas. Just to set the context for you, Dallas right now is really going through what many perceive to be a new era of its history. We have a growing population and a booming economy, and it feels like we're on the cusp of something great. We are doing some really incredible things in Dallas right now, like building parks on top of freeways and recreating our public spaces in these really extraordinary ways. This picture here is of Clyde Warren Park, which is a 5.5-acre park that's built on top of a sunken freeway in the middle of downtown Dallas. And it's really served as a way to talk about how parks can be more than just a recreation space, but can help spur neighborhood redevelopment and walkable connectivity, as well as address the urban heat island effect, which this park is able to do. But despite all of this great movement right now, we recognize that there are a lot of challenges that still remain, whether it's questions about healthcare or issues with our water quality. Do we have enough water, and is it of a high enough quality to drink? There are issues with transportation, which sometimes intersect with issues of flooding. As you can see here, a picture from 2 years ago when one of our major highways was flooded after a series of rainfall events. And then other questions about how do we get our citizens and residents outside of their automobiles and letting them traverse the city by walking or riding bicycles through complete streets. And underneath all of this, there's a gnawing economic anxiety related to income inequality and a division that is 50 years old between the north half of our city and the south half of our city. So the idea that we really want to leave with you here today is that our green assets, our parks, our open spaces, our trails, they can help solve some of Dallas's biggest economic, social, and ecological challenges that we're facing. And to Jad's point of what he was speaking about earlier, we really understand that parks can provide multiple benefits to strengthen our cities, whether it's retaining stormwater runoff or cooling neighborhoods from summertime heat waves, providing buffers against flooding, safe routes to school and work, increasing active recreation. The list can just go on and on and on. What we're really finding is that parks are critical components to urban infrastructure that allow our cities to thrive. So when we think about the big challenges that the city of Dallas faces today, we really believe that parks are a solution for many of them. Whether it is environmental challenges like flood protection, or social challenges like healthcare, or economic challenges like providing mobility for low-income residents, we understand that parks are frequently a low-cost and innovative solution to many of these issues. We really view parks as being at the center of this Venn diagram here, as being a really innovative solution here. So the question we've been asking recently and exploring with the city of Dallas recently is what if we intentionally designed all of our city's parks to address as many of our core challenges as possible? And that is the idea that is at the center of what we call Smart Growth for Dallas. The idea that Dallas's parks and open spaces can help address its biggest challenges. This is a new partnership that's between the Trust for Public Land, Texas Trees Foundation, and Building Community Workshop. And it's geared around using the GIS skills and tools that Jad introduced earlier to help identify the best places for parks in Dallas that can help connect communities, improve public health, and protect our most important natural places. Smart Growth for Dallas starts with the understanding that Dallas's parks and open spaces can do more than just beautify our city and provide a place to recreate. They can also cool neighborhoods from summertime heat. They can protect development from flooding, absorb stormwater runoff, improve public health, connect communities, and provide public spaces for residents to gather and unite. We're using a triple bottom line strategy that really looks at all of the key issues related to parks and open spaces through a social lens, an economic lens, and an ecological lens. And we help the city identify the best locations for parks by mapping these potential locations and the benefits they could provide, looking at these 5 key issues: absorb and protect, cool, connect, equity, and health, which I'll walk through briefly here. So we start by running our data analysis that looks at dozens of different layers using a GIS-based engine. And we end up generating a series of maps like what you see here. This map is our Absorb and Protect map for Dallas, and it tracks the areas of Dallas where parks can have the biggest impact on helping to absorb stormwater as well as to reduce flooding risks by providing a buffer against floods. So the areas highlighted on this map, the orange and red areas, are actually tracking areas of Dallas where parks can really help move the needle on this flooding issue. You can see the area really tracks the Trinity River as it runs through Dallas, as well as some of the creeks and tributaries that feed into the river. And finally, in the lower left-hand side, in the southwest corner of the city, we're seeing an escarpment area highlighted as well. Our next map looks at what we call cool, or how we can use parks to help combat the urban heat island effect. This map here tracks areas where there's a low prevalence of tree canopy cover and a high prevalence of impervious cover. And so these are areas where planting trees and other urban heat island reduction strategies can help cool neighborhoods from summertime heat waves. It's no surprise that we're seeing the urban core of our city highlighted in dark red, but we're also looking at areas where there's high amounts of transportation infrastructure, whether it's parking lots or interstate highways or other areas of asphalt cover. These are areas where we would advocate planting trees and expanding the green canopy cover in the city to help combat the urban heat island effect. Our third layer we look at is what we call connect, or how we can use parks to help provide first mile and last mile connectivity between transit and trails and park destinations. So this map is actually 3 separate layers that have been combined into one. We're tracking where there are gaps in the bikeway and trail system in the city. We're tracking areas where there are opportunities to connect light rail stations to the surrounding neighborhoods. And then finally overlaying that with safety concerns. So actually tracking where there are a high prevalence of collisions between pedestrians and vehicles. And so the dark red areas are again the areas where the city should be investing in providing connectivity to transit, whether this is through trail expansion, streetscape improvements such as bike lanes, sidewalk enhancements, or planting street trees that can help guide pedestrians along their paths to important destinations. The next layer we look at is a health layer. So in this layer, we're actually using data from the county health department that tracks high prevalences of asthma and respiratory diseases, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. The blocks that you see here outline zip codes in Dallas, so it's not quite as granular and finely grained as our previous data sets were. But we're still identifying large neighborhoods in Dallas where there are health impacts related to these 3 issues. And as it turns out, having proximity to a park can help address these 3 issues, just by the fact that if you live near a park, you get out and use it, you have more active recreation, which improves your health. What's interesting about this map is that we're seeing the poorest areas of Dallas highlighted in the southern half of the city, and some of the wealthiest areas of Dallas in the northern half of the city tracked as our highest priority areas for health issues. And our middle income areas, which you see in the southwest and the northeast, are not as high priority for us on the health issues. This has been surprising to us to see and surprising to many of our partners in Dallas as well. But these are areas where we would really advocate for increasing the trail network in this area and providing parks that can have active recreation benefits to help improve the health of nearby residents. We also look at equity issues as well. So this map uses census data, which looks at the EPA's Environmental Justice Index to track 6 key environmental justice indicators: the prevalence of low-income households, seniors over 65, children under 5, areas where there's less than a high school education, and areas with a high prevalence of households where English is spoken as a second language. We know that for these communities, parks can provide a very special and important benefit. And so the areas on our map are highlighting where we need to be focusing on parks that can help these areas gather and unite. And finally, we stack all 5 of our layers, equity, health, connect, cool, absorb, and protect, into one map to create an overall priorities or stacked priorities map. What you see here is really an investment guide for the city. If we're going to spend money on our park system, if we're going to spend money on green infrastructure in the city, let's focus on the dark red areas, because those are the areas where we can really move the needle the most. We can also use this map to help understand what type of investments we need to be making in specific areas. So if we're going to be building a park in an area that's highlighted on this map, let's look at the underlying data to figure out, should we be focusing on equity in this park? Should we be focusing on health in this park? Should we be using this park to help provide better connectivity? And other types of data-informed decision-making. So the data and the maps can only take us so far, and that's why we're really focusing on putting our research to work here in Dallas, specifically around combating the urban heat island effect. The image you see here is a zoom in of one specific neighborhood in Dallas called Cedar Crest. It's in the southern half of the city, and our map indicated that this area is really popping for cool, connect, equity, and health. So they're really seeing issues with urban heat island effect. They're having problems with pedestrian connectivity. Equity is a big concern in this area, and they're also having issues with health concerns. So we've got to thinking about how can we use this research to help drive investments in parks, trails, and other types of green assets to help really move the needle on these 4 issues. One of the first opportunities we identified is that the city is actually looking, or excuse me, the county of Dallas is about to break ground on a new trail that will run through the heart of this neighborhood underneath a utility easement where there's a high voltage electric utility line that runs across the neighborhood. It's an 8-mile long easement, and there'll be a new hike bike trail that's going to be built this year and into next year. What's unique about this trail is that in the far western edge of it, that actually dead ends at a school campus, and then at the far northern end of it, it dead ends at a light rail station. And then it runs through a pretty densely populated neighborhood. So we're now providing a lot of great opportunities for connectivity between schools, neighborhoods, and transit destinations. This is a picture of that high voltage electric utility line, and the trail will be running underneath this. One of the other unique features of this is that there are actually 4 public school campuses, all within a half-mile walk of the trail. We estimate that about 10,000 residents live within walking distance of these 4 campuses. So we got to thinking about how we can help leverage this new investment of the trail to help move the needle on our other issues, specifically around the urban heat island effect. The budget for building the trail is pretty limited, and they're not really looking at expanding the trail to provide connections to these campuses or to the neighborhood. So in partnership with the Texas Trees Foundation and the Nature Conservancy, and thanks to a national grant we've received, we're bringing significant resources here to this neighborhood to do an expansion of the urban canopy, an expansion of the trees through the neighborhood to help provide better connectivity to that trail as well as combat the urban heat island effect. Specifically, we'll be doing investments at 2 of these campuses to help expand the urban canopy there, plant more trees, which can help cool neighborhoods in the summertime. And then we'll also be planting street trees throughout the neighborhood to provide walkable connections to that trail that's going to be built in the next year. So I'm now going to pass this off to my colleague Matt from the Texas Trees Foundation, who's going to talk a little bit more about our research on the urban heat island effect as well as this specific project.